That morning, I was tending to the roses in my garden, completely unaware of what was coming. My hands were deep in the soil, inspecting the roots of the young plants I had just placed in the ground. Everything seemed peaceful and normal, just like any other day, until a sudden pain shot through my back. I had no idea what was about to happen, especially with my step-nephew Taylor being there purely by chance. My garden had always been a place of peace, my refuge, especially after my husband Grant passed away. It was the one spot that truly healed me. But that day, everything felt different. I was 67, though people often asked how I managed to look so youthful for my age. Honestly, there wasn't a big secret. I just took care of myself, eating well, staying active, and trying to hold on to the young woman inside me. But I won't deny that loneliness had taken root in my heart. While I may have still turned heads with my looks, there was an emptiness inside that I couldn't shake. As I was adjusting one of the saplings, a sharp pain suddenly pierced my back. It was so intense and unexpected that I dropped everything I was holding. For a moment, I closed my eyes, attempting to breathe through the pain, but it only worsened. The ache spread from my shoulder down to my back, rendering me frozen in place. Then, out of the blue, I heard Taylor's voice. "Nora, are you all right?" My step-nephew, Taylor, 22 years old, broad-shouldered, with a muscular physique and a face that could be on the cover of a magazine, appeared beside me. His blonde hair glimmered in the sunlight, and his piercing eyes were fixed on me with concern. He had a natural charisma, the kind that drew people in, even though he didn't seem to notice it himself. And now, all that youthful energy was entirely focused on helping me. I managed to say, "My back," pointing to where the pain was most intense. "Something's wrong. I can't move. Are you ready for this?" Because what follows is more than just a story. It's a journey where boundaries blur, emotions intertwine, and secrets linger like silent cries. Every moment might stir something deep within you, pushing you past what you thought you knew. If you're intrigued, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell to stay updated. Taylor crouched down next to me. "Let me help," he said. When his large hands touched my shoulders, I felt a shiver run through me. "I'll give you a massage. It usually helps," he added. I didn't have the strength to argue. I was willing to try anything to relieve the pain. But what surprised me was how his touch affected me. As Taylor placed his hands on my back and gently pressed, I realized I hadn't felt this kind of closeness in years. His fingers were firm but gentle as they moved across my tight muscles, and slowly the pain began to ease, replaced by an unfamiliar warmth that spread throughout me. It was as though the loneliness deep inside me had been stirred awake. I let out a deep breath, a little too deep. "Maybe," I started to say, but the words caught in my throat. I couldn't finish. He didn't speak, just continued his massage, his hands moving over my back in a way that made me hyper-aware of each touch. At that moment, something shifted inside me, and it both frightened and excited me in ways I wasn't prepared for. Taylor continued working his hands across my back, steady and focused, until he paused and leaned in closer to examine me. "Nora, this is really bad," he said, his tone serious and full of concern. "We can't fix this out here in the garden. Let's get you inside, near the fireplace. The warmth will help, and I'll grab some cream for your back. We have to take care of this." I hesitated for a moment, but the pain made the decision for me. I nodded, and he helped me to my feet. "Careful. Take it slow," he advised, his strong hand supporting me. There was something oddly comforting about the way he held me, a closeness I hadn't felt in years. Once inside, the crackling fire filled the room with a golden glow. The warmth wrapped around me like a blanket, immediately easing some of the tension in my body. Taylor quickly spread a blanket on the floor and gestured for me to lie down. "You need to stretch out your back in a more comfortable position," he said, his eyes serious, but with a hint of something softer. "I've got some cream. It'll help loosen your muscles." I lay down, feeling the fire's warmth sink into me as Taylor rubbed the cream between his hands to warm it up. When his hand first touched my shoulders, I let out a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. "Just relax," he whispered. "You'll feel better soon." But every touch wasn't just soothing my physical pain. It was awakening something inside me, something I thought I'd buried long ago. As his fingers moved lower down my back, my thoughts became clearer, yet more chaotic. Taylor's touch wasn't only easing my muscles, it was stirring emotions I had long suppressed. "Your muscles are so tight," he said, his voice warm and full of concern. "You're doing too much, Nora. The garden, the housework. You need to think about yourself, too." I tried to explain. "The garden is my therapy, Taylor. Without it," he interrupted, his touch softening. "But you need more than just the garden. You need people, someone who cares about you." His words warmed me more than the fire, but they also made me uneasy. I didn't fully understand what he meant, or maybe I did, but I wasn't ready to face it. As his hands moved lower on my back, continuing the massage, the warmth from his touch loosened the tight spots, but within, it was creating a different kind of knot. Being this close to him felt both reassuring and terrifying. "Taylor," I finally whispered, my voice trembling, "you're really helping, but—" "I know," he said, his voice slower now, "but everything will be okay. Just relax, Nora." I could feel that his words were more than just simple advice. Like the fire's flames, his presence was becoming more intense with every passing second. Taylor's hands gently moved further down my back, each muscle loosening with his touch. A strange sense of unease began to take over me as his warmth moved deeper, slow but deliberate. My thoughts grew clouded, and an internal struggle began to form. I told myself to stay calm, but I couldn't control it. As his hands moved closer to my shoulders, my heart started pounding. On one hand, it was his proximity, and on the other, the boundaries set by years of distance. Suddenly, an inner voice screamed, "He's your step-nephew, Nora. You shouldn't be doing this." The room was filled with the warm glow of the fireplace, but after a while, the heat became almost unbearable. As I noticed Taylor wipe the sweat from his forehead, my eyes couldn't help but drift to him. Without warning, he lifted the bottom of his shirt, pulling it off to reveal his muscular, sun-kissed body glowing in the firelight, almost like a work of art. It's hard to explain the emotions I felt in that moment. I hadn't experienced this kind of closeness in a long time. "The heat from the fire is too much," he said, tossing his shirt aside. His tone was casual, but the intensity in his gaze left me motionless. Then his eyes met mine. "Nora, you're getting really hot too," he said, his voice soft yet firm. "You'll feel worse if you keep that shirt on. Let me help you." My words got stuck in my throat. I considered resisting, but the burning sensation on my skin and the room's heat became overwhelming. Slowly, I nodded. Taylor crouched beside me and reached for the hem of my shirt. I felt his warm hands on my skin, and the touch made me shiver, though it wasn't cold. It was a warmth that seemed to spread through me. Gently, he pulled my shirt off, carefully working it around my hair before setting it aside. The air between us thickened, and his eyes lingered on me briefly before he quickly looked away. Still, I didn't need to see his face to know what those glances stirred within me. "Nora," Taylor said, his voice now softer and deeper, "do you feel better now?" "I think so," I replied, my voice wavering. My words couldn't mask the turmoil inside me. It wasn't just the heat. It was the warmth from Taylor's presence that enveloped me. "Come on," he said, extending his hand. "Let's go sit on the couch. You're uncomfortable here." I took his hand, and as our fingers touched, I felt a jolt of electricity that I hadn't experienced in years. As he helped me stand, his strong arms steadied me, and his protective nature felt so real it melted away my fears. When we reached the couch, Taylor gently seated me, then sat beside me but maintained some distance. Still, the tension in the room lingered. There was something unspoken between us, too hard to articulate. Trying not to lose myself in his gaze, I struggled to suppress the chaos inside me. But one thing was clear. Tonight, it was nearly impossible to ignore the weight of our unspoken feelings. After we sat, the silence deepened, punctuated only by the crackling fire. My heart raced in my chest, nearly audible to my ears. Taylor, sitting so close, his presence, his breath, even his proximity, affected me. It made me feel both nervous and oddly at peace. I turned my head for a moment, and our eyes met. There was something there, curiosity, perhaps something more. His gaze was deep, intense, but soft. In that moment, it felt like the world had stopped. Taylor slowly reached for my hand, and when his fingers brushed mine, a shiver ran through me. He said nothing, but the silence spoke volumes. His eyes lingered on my lips, and in that instant, everything changed. He leaned toward me, his breath warming my skin. The voices inside me went silent. There was no right or wrong, only Taylor's presence, his closeness, I closed my eyes, leaning in slightly, and when our lips met, time seemed to freeze. The first kiss was gentle, exploratory, but within moments, the gentleness gave way to something deeper. His warmth, his breath, the feel of his lips, everything seemed to disconnect us from reality. The loneliness, the fear, the longing that had been buried inside me merged with him in that moment. This wasn't just a kiss. It was the expression of years of suppressed emotions, hidden desires, and perhaps a bond I hadn't even recognized. As the kiss deepened, his hands moved gently over my cheeks. My hands instinctively grasped his shoulders, feeling the warmth of his skin through my palms. Finally, we both pulled away, our breaths uneven. The bond between us was undeniable, and it felt stronger than ever. Was there anything left to say? I wasn't sure, but one thing was certain. Nothing between us would ever be the same. I realized I was breathless, my heart racing as if it might explode. When I looked into Taylor's eyes, I saw a question and something deeper, a desire. In that moment, my mind went completely quiet, and my heart and body were making the decisions. Yes, I said, my voice shaky but clear. I want you. I want you. The words came out, and something inside me snapped. The loneliness and fears I'd carried for years dissolved in an instant. All that mattered now was being here with him. Taylor's face briefly showed surprise before a slow smile spread across his face. The warmth in his eyes matched the fire surrounding us. I want you to, Nora, he said, his voice both gentle and firm. I've been trying to hold back, but I can't anymore. I want you. I want to be with you. His words washed over me, each one touching my heart. Taylor cupped my face in his hands and moved closer. This time, there was no hesitation. We both knew exactly what we wanted. When his lips met mine again, the intensity of our emotions spoke louder than words. This moment was a turning point for me. Despite all my fears, I wasn't going to stop it. I hadn't stopped anything. I had let go completely, flowing with my feelings. Now, with nothing but a thin sheet covering us, tangled up and breathless, Taylor lay beside me, a small smile on his face. I looked up at the ceiling, noticing our clothes scattered on the floor. The night felt surreal, like a dream. Taylor turned to face me, still smiling, his hand gently touching my cheek, his thumb grazing my lips. Nora, he said, his voice soft and deep, I wouldn't trade this moment for anything. I turned to him, filled with mixed emotions, and spoke with a voice full of gratitude. Thank you, Taylor. I haven't felt this lonely in a long time, but you being here, young, strong, and handsome, it means so much. Taylor's lips curled into a smile. Nora, do you know how beautiful you are? He said. And I'm not just talking about your looks. Being with you feels completely different. Your warmth, your sincerity, you make me feel better about myself. I couldn't take my eyes off him. His words, his touch, Everything felt so real and impactful. I wanted to remember this night forever. I needed you, Taylor, I said honestly. And you were here. I couldn't ask for anything more. Taylor smiled slightly and ran his fingers along the edge of the sheet. I'll be here a lot, Nora, he said, his voice determined and sincere. Whenever you need me, I'll be here, just to see you, just to give you these moments. In that moment, I felt like a new door was opening in my life. The burdens and loneliness of the past slowly faded away. Having Taylor by my side filled me with trust and peace. I closed my eyes, took a deep breath, and moved a little closer to his warmth. This night was just the beginning, the first step of a new journey. Knowing I wasn't alone anymore was more precious than anything. I hope you enjoyed my story. It's been an exciting journey, and I'm so glad to share it with you. If you want to hear more, don't forget to subscribe. And if you turn on notifications, you'll be the first to know when a new episode drops. Your likes and comments mean the world to me. They motivate me to keep writing more. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next story.